The Five Nights at Freddy's movie is my most anticipated film of all time. I can't think of a single movie I've been more excited to have released than this one. It's been a long time coming, with the movie having been in development for over 8.5 years. It went through dozens of rejected scripts, changes in the directors and studios, and every other roadblock a movie can possibly hit. With that much of a wait, and Scott Cawthon promising that the screenplay they finally went with was perfect, does it live up to the impossibly high expectations it has set for itself? In a word, yes. Absolutely. Wait, that's 2 words. Well, anyway, let me talk about why. Starting with the most important thing for this franchise, its story. Now, I'm not going to go into any specifics of the plot, because I know a lot of people have not seen the movie yet, and I don't want to spoil anything. But, as you would probably expect, it differs quite a bit from any pre-established lore we've had from this series. Whether that be the games, the novels, or the novellas, this movie tells its own story with its own characters, even if some of them may share names with ones we already know. It's obviously up to the individual whether or not that story is good, but personally, I thought it was very engaging and well-paced. I was willing to suspend my disbelief with the things that didn't make sense in the existing lore, because they did make sense in the context of how they were presented. And that's all that really matters, to me anyway. Remember, this story is meant to be enjoyable for people who go into it with absolutely no prior knowledge. In that regard, it works well as a story for both fans and newcomers alike. The next thing to talk about are the special effects. The number one thing I dislike about live-action films these days is how much they over-rely on CGI characters. I've always had a love for those practical effects and realistic costumes in older movies, especially in the horror genre. So you can imagine my excitement when I heard Jim Henson's Creature Shop was making actual animatronics for use in this movie. And they did an outstanding job. Not only are they perfect recreations of the original game's designs, their movements also reach perfectly into the uncanny valley, being neither too lifelike nor too robotic. It truly felt like they were actually haunted, and they even had their own personalities to an extent. As the movie went on, I found myself mesmerized by just how well they nailed these characters down. I can't imagine a better way Freddy and the gang could have been portrayed in this movie. While the animatronics are what put pretty much all of us in our seats, the actors are the real stars of the show for the most part, and I have to say that they all did a wonderful job. For the sake of keeping this review short, I'm only going to talk about the main 4 actors in this movie, but all of the other characters did just as good a job as they did. Josh Hutcherson, playing the main character of Mike, really makes you sympathize with his character and the numerous struggles he's dealing with. As I watched the movie, it felt like Mike could have been one of my friends, and I wished I could give him support myself. Elizabeth Lail, who plays Vanessa, really sold herself with her particularly emotional moments. You could see the fear in her eyes whenever she was talking about something that she didn't want to. Abby's actress, Piper Rubio, was challenged with what was probably the most complex role to play, especially for such a young girl. Yet there wasn't a single scene where her character felt fake to me. And of course, Matthew Lillard had the highest expectations of this cast, playing the series' most iconic character and main antagonist. And I'm not exaggerating when I say he nailed it. He was exactly what I would have wanted William Afton to be like on the big screen. An absolutely perfect casting. He may not have had that much time to get his character out there, but he really left an impression. Another great thing about this movie, the set design. Oh my goodness, the sets are absolutely flawless. I think a lot of FNAF fans, myself included, have wanted for a long time to see an official recreation of Freddy's in real life, and this movie really delivers. While the pizzeria is not a one-to-one recreation of the FNAF 1 location, it fits right in with all the other renditions of the restaurant we've seen up to this point. And many of the other locations visited in this movie, while not coming directly from the games, reference them a lot, including a reference to FNAF World, which was awesome to see. Speaking of references, this movie is chock full of them. I won't go into detail to avoid spoilers, but if you're watching this movie as a fan, you'll catch a lot of callbacks not just to the games, but to the FNAF fandom itself. It's great. The movie really was made for us. Let's touch on the elephant in the room. This is a horror movie. So, is it scary enough despite the PG-13 rating? I'll be honest, I hadn't seen many horror movies going into this, so I watched 20 or so leading up to it to compare it to. And I'll say that it fit right in with most of the other films from Blumhouse I watched, like Megan and Happy Death Day. Those movies were more character-driven and had a lot more of a story behind them. In that regard, I think they were definitely the best studio to handle this film. It's no Friday the 13th, characters aren't dropping dead every 5 minutes or anything, and it has a lot of scenes that aren't really scary at all, even one that I'd describe as straight-up wholesome. So no, I wouldn't say that it's that scary, but considering that's also true of the novels at points, I think that's exactly what a Five Nights at Freddy's story should be like. To add to this, something that seemed like a lot of people were upset about is that this movie isn't really that graphic. A fair warning, what I'm about to say here does kind of go into spoiler territory, so skip to the timestamp shown on screen to go past this part. While characters in this movie do die, it's in ways that creatively keep the gore off screen. Whether it be a cutaway at the moment of death, a blood splatter coming from off screen, or something only shown through shadows, nothing really violent happens in clear shot of the camera. And I can totally understand why some people would be upset by that. But this franchise is and always has been one intended for children, so I really can't blame them for going easy on it in that field. Is it disappointing? Yeah, a little. But at least to me, it's not a deal breaker, especially since they were upfront about this prior to release. The last thing I want to touch on before wrapping up is the score. Now, I'm no expert on music, so I can't really go too in-depth about it. But can I just say that I'm amazed they got the freaking Newton brothers to compose for this film? Because of that, the music was something else that I was really looking forward to about this movie, almost as much as the animatronics. I think the most important thing for the score of a video game movie is to stick closely to the feeling of the original game's music. Now, Five Nights at Freddy's has never had that much of the type of music that you'd expect in a movie. Obviously, some of the later games, like Alternate Custom, Night, and Sister Location, have music that play during the nights, but a lot of it is mostly just ambiance. That being said, the Newton brothers did a great job capturing the vibe of that ambiance in their soundtrack for this movie. A lot of people are talking about how great the main theme of the movie is in particular, and I'll admit that the 80s vibe it gives off is absolutely phenomenal, and it's something that I'll be re-listening to constantly. But the other music in the movie isn't to be slept on either. It may not be much, but it does add a lot to the movie. Skip forward like 10 seconds if you want absolutely no spoilers, but something I was a little disappointed about was that there was no sign of the Toreador March motif that was used in all of the trailers outside of the credits. So, I think that's pretty much everything I have to say about the Five Nights at Freddy's movie without spoiling anything. I'm not really the best at rating pieces of media with any shred of consistency, especially when I have a lot of bias, but I honestly think that this movie is a perfect 10 out of 10 for me. If you haven't seen it yet, the movie is available to stream on Peacock right now, but I would highly advise seeing it in theaters if you can. The entire community is coming together for this, so dress up, in a cosplay if you want, grab your favorite FNAF plushie, and go have a great time celebrating this momentous occasion with your fellow fans. I'm sure you won't regret it. Even if you personally don't end up enjoying the movie itself, I'm sure you'll at least have a fun and memorable experience while you're in the theater. That's all from me for now. I've been FNAF Alerts, thank you so much for watching my review, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!